So this is the Nephew SDK meeting on, what is today? April 16th, 2024. Okay. Well, welcome, Mickey, who's our newer lead for SDK.
Yeah, I'll turn my camera off. Just give me a second.
And so a little background, I guess, because Mickey just got on board.
Yeah.
So we have, technically speaking, we have two contributors to SDK, or two people who sign up. Well, they're folks who actually sign up and will finish their work. So I don't. So they sign up, but then they're done. So Fiacra signed up to do the. I think that the better things to do would be like give you some intro of the task that we had put together.
Okay.
Which is on issues. So anyway, so the again, computer's new, so even all my cache and all that stuff is kind of gone.
It's okay. Do you want me to share my screen?
No. Let me do this very quickly. Okay. The easiest thing to do would be like what are the list of issues that were set up, because I think that's the least controversial stuff. No one actually. Well, even that I wouldn't say so, because there were some opinions that certain things shouldn't be there, which we kind of, I think we dump it off of R3 when that happens. Okay, this one. Okay. So can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, good. So these are the list of stuff that we're doing, and so this one is the one where we don't have a use case yet, and therefore we dump it on. I thought we just put it off of R3, but anyway, we dump it off by saying that we probably wouldn't do R3. Oh, I took off R3 and then Bala put it back on R3. So anyway, that's the reason why I took it off of R3. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, postpone. Yeah, I removed R3. I was wondering what's going on. So outside of that, though, all the other things are still good. And so Dan from Ericsson is working on the CLI. He did a demo about, I would say, 3 or 4 weeks ago already now, and he's wrapping up KubeBuilder. And so what he wonder is, so this works, and then he's saying that using KubeBuilder, when you add an API, which you have to do, when you create API, you can also correspondingly generate a controller of any type of content inside. So at that point, we haven't figured out what it is yet. So what we're hoping is, he's not here, but then we're hoping is, I was told at least last week that he's still supposed to go to the ONE Summit. So I think I'll get a time to get an ONE Summit to talk to him on some of the things that would be great to do for CLI. But the CLI the framework is simplistic. So the only thing I was asking for CLI framework is we changed like KubeBuilder into Nephew SDK, preserve the property of KubeBuilder so you can create CS API. So we take the Cube from Operator SDK from Red Hat, which also wraps the KubeBuilder CLI framework. So you can use the exact same flags from KubeBuilder on Operator SDK, and does exactly the same thing. So Dan already figured out how to do that, so that's great. So now we do have a framework where you can do a Nephew SDK -- create API, and it generates the CLD YAMLs, and it takes it from a Go struct in a directory, and then push it in there. So those things I know works. So
Mhm.
the idea would be the rest of the stuff that we need to do that isn't KubeBuilder. But then it's very specific to the field that we have to extend the CLI to do. And those are not all Dan's work, because it's quite a lot. That's including packaging, that's including generating the vendor, whatever that vendor piece is going to be, which is actually what I want to talk about today, because that's my piece.
Mhm.
So this is mine. This is the default NF deployment reconciler. So currently I call it the proxy operator. So this is when you use the Netfio SDK to get on board if you're a vendor.
Mhm.
So imagine yourself as a network function vendor, um, and you want to get on board. So we are saying that you do not have to write an NF deployment reconciler, because there's nothing special on that one. And you can leverage the fact that you can on the line command, you can just tell us which particular version of this particular Netfio CLD that
Mhm.
you're interested in. In which case, the vision there is the CLI would then generate the deployment YAML, the deployment resource that would be pointing to the reconciler or the proxy operator that are specifically for that version, that API version, and that particular group GPV that you'll be using.
Mhm.
And then a GKV that we'll be using, and then and then so this we have to write for every time this is where the ongoing stuff is happening, meaning that every time we have a change or we define a new Netfio CLD, we'll be writing a new one. And then so 2 weeks ago, when last we had this meeting,
Mhm.
I talked about using so this is what the proxy operator is doing right now. At least we're on a POC phase, not really into the finalizing thing yet. So POC phase right now, the proxy operator has a reconciler on the front that reconciles the NF deployment at V1 Alpha 1. That's the only one we have. And then on the back end, it would invoke some plugin. So 2 weeks ago, I was saying that let's use HashiCorp's Go plugin from HashiCorp, which is what they use for all their stuff with Terraform and all that other crap. So upon using it very very quickly, I realized this is not the thing we want. So
Mhm.
the Go plugin library from HashiCorp basically creates a model for a plugin, which your plugin is a Go binary that is in a file system that is accessible by you. I mean, this is obviously being used as a tool, not being used as a runtime thing. So for us, our vision is the vendor business logic is what we've been calling them, the business logic piece, would be something that runs obviously in Kubernetes. So
Mhm.
we'll basically have to proxy the NF deployment, all the changes and all that stuff into the business logic backend. So right now, the thing I'm coding right now is it'll just be a regular gRPC server. So we'll define a gRPC. We define protobuf definitions for NF deployment, which is I've done a simplified version that is whatever is needed for UPF for now. There's a tools from Kubernetes that you can directly convert a Go struct into a proto. It didn't work for me right away. I know you have to. I think what you have to do is you have to put like a very long line command to tell them not to do a lot of things. So I haven't tried yet because it's not an urgent thing.
Mhm.
It's not. This is something that we do like once in a blue moon, not like something we do all the time. So it's auto generating a proto buff definition is not a big deal. We don't need it. We don't really need it. So I kind of skipped that for now. And so this is there. So the idea would be if you're not using Go plugin, the business logic gRPC server, the service needs to be discovered by the proxy operator. So this I just define a CLD that would tell you exactly what the service name is, we expect to run in the same cluster, obviously. So we'll tell them what the server's name is, and then you'll do a gRPC to connect and invocations of everything to that gRPC server. And that's okay because we can put that CL into the operator package generations, meaning that the CLI piece, when you say that I am generating, let's generate the operator package, then part of that generations would be creating this particular custom resource inside a package, and we make sure that it get applied. And then while applying this means that we see one additional server that we have to connect to on the proxy, which is great. And anything there? Yeah. So in that sense, from that logic, what I would expect moving forward, again, this is probably better to talk about on the ONE Summit when we actually have the whiteboard and stuff, would be the CLI tools would be generating the gRPC server code. So the one thing you already know is when you create API, you know what are the vendor extension resources are. So the vendor extension resources, that's actually today I don't reconcile it. That's actually a very good thinking that it may something we should give an option to whether or not you want to reconcile. The reason why I said that is the vendor extensions that I defined today for UPF, which actually didn't have one before, is the Helm repository path and version, basically. So this is basically chart information that it gets propagated down to the Helm released invocation. So those things I would hope could be changed independently without touching the NF deployment. So we may have to generate a package that is specifically just have that field, those repository informations, and which is okay. And if that's the case, then whatever is being generated by the CLI it needs to be reconciled on that resource, so that would actually translate and updates the Helm Flux controller that we are now taking a different path or something. So that's one. Anything else? So I think that's one big piece. The other ones are because writing this also writes the sample backend. So I'm writing the FreeFileGC provider in this case, because it's a Helm chart provider. That provider gRPC server has has direct connections to the API server because it needs to fetch the extension CLs. We are not fetching the extension CLs on the proxy operators because the proxy has no knowledge of what the structure is. Only the business logic does. So we'll send the GVK directly, or the object reference directly to the backend, the business logic, and the vendor specific business logic, and then they would interpret that. And in that case, they would have to fetch it from the API server. So I think that was one of the discussion we had several weeks ago on what is the responsibility of the CLI, what is the responsibility of the proxy, and what's the responsibility of the business logic. So back then we were, I think Kieran was here. We were saying, oh, do we need Kubernetes knowledge off of the Kubernetes clients? So does the business logic owner, the vendor, needs to write Kubernetes clients basically? And the answer is yes, because if you have extensions, you have to fetch it yourself. There's no way we can do this, and that also means that they're RBAC when the CLI builds the RBAC for this, whatever this business logic is, business logic code is, would have to set up the RBAC with a read-write privilege of all the APIs that are generated, during the setup. So you have that RBAC being applied when you deployed the business logic backend. So that's part of the responsibility divisions out of this. This also owns the Helm related. So the business logic also owns all the Helm related resources. So they would be the one who would be creating the Helm release and the config map for Helm. So yeah, that's also a Kubernetes thing that have to do. So obviously they need to have a client.
Okay, I have a quick question.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So for this ticket, is it only you working on it, or
this thing? It's only me working on it. So
okay.
I'm responsible all the way down to making sure that it works for FreeFiGC. And then yeah, and then there's a CLI piece which if we talk about is very big, which I don't think Dan would have the time to do all the things that were on the list. So it'd be good to get someone else to also help out. We need to add all the Nephew logics on top of that in terms of like packaging and generating generating IVACs and all that stuff that needs to happen. There's also a third piece, which is so this is pretty much the proxy operator. It's almost there. I was hoping that I can do a demo today, probably not. And then, so package generation is the next one, as you can see. This is tapping onto CLI. So once you have the CLI, for convenience, we can, well, I mean, whoever takes it can design this, but then some of the vision would be, because you already created APIs, the packaging would be generating at least 2 package, maybe even 3 right now. And then those packages, one of the package would be the NF package itself. So if you do FreeFiGC, that would be the FreeFiGC UPF package by itself. Then that package should be taking the CLD that you defined using Nephew SDK, generates a dummy CL and push that into the package. So during deployment time, the Nephew pipeline would be the one trying to set up all the fields, well, through human. But then yeah. So you need to get that CL in there, and you need to you need to generate the cap file to at least tell them what are the list of cap functions you're going to run out of this pipeline, so that they would so the specializer knows what to run, basically. And so this is the packaging side of the work, which no one is working on. This, thanks for Fiacra, who is here, is done. And I'm actually thank you for them, because I'm actually based on this to build my backend. So that's nice. This is basically ensure that on using the Helm charts from Orange, which is the thing that I based on when I wrote the original operators. We can use the Flux Helm controllers and be able to bring up the FreeFiGC. They actually bring up all the NFs. Which is what we have, which is the final goal anyway for L3. But then right now, obviously for POC, particularly before ONE Summit, all I was looking for is bring up UPF. So that was nice that they brought everything up. But then because of that, I also have to eliminate some stuff, so I don't have to generate as big of a config map. And then, so that's nice. So this is there. It's verified. It works. Our test bed, on the other hand, is an interesting one, because the FreeFiGC operators runs the FreeFiGC, the Flux operators will be running on the regional and on the workload clusters. So on our setup today, those are kind clusters. So I think they did it on a management cluster, which have access to GitHub that isn't Gitier. But then I haven't actually tried on. So I did it with like micro KLS, because I'm only building the workload cluster piece. So just simulating the specializer pushing the right object, the right package down to the workload cluster. So obviously with my VM you can access Git repo, but then I'm wondering for the setup, for the test setup that we have using kind clusters, whether or not the regional and the edge clusters would have access to external Git repos. So that's the thing that I haven't tried. So let's hope so, because your Helm charts will be hosted on an external Git repo.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, we can create another Git tier repo to do it. But anyway, but then we only do that for integration test purposes. we don't obviously for a real thing. It's up to the users to make sure that their edge or regional, whatever their workload cluster is, have access to a Git repo that would be hosting their Helm charts or the vendor's Helm charts. So this is great. This is pretty much done. I should mark it done actually. So this is mine, which is because the reason why it seems like I'm doing a lot is because there are two issues there. So the other one is the FreeFi piece, which is I'm working on using UPF right now. So that's the sample backend business logic that we'll show to vendors. This is how you onboard to Nephew. This, I said, there's no use case for it now, so we are postponing it. And the last one is suggested by Vim. Which is the right thing to do. So I'm not objecting to it, obviously. So we should generate. So right now, I mean, just to be, I guess to be level-headed, to level set. For our three, we are not doing anything other than Helm onboarding. So the SDK potentially could do a lot of stuff if you want to, but then currently for our three, the only thing we committed to is we want to support network function vendors Helm charts onboarding to Nephew for day one, and then our goal is their Helm charts could be onboarded unmodified. So we don't have any one Helm chart, to be honest. So the only thing we can kind of claim that is to onboard FreeFiGC and tell the world that we can onboard FreeFiGC Helm charts from Orange without changing anything with that Helm charts. So that's the goal. That would be something we want to build by June. And all the frameworks are set up to make sure this works. We agree as a community that we'll use the Flux Helm controllers. I mean, agree is a strong word. There were some questions. It's agreed by stakeholders. And the hardest one, I mean, even Vim said yes to that. There were some questions from I think Bala and Akash that they don't, because now to do this you have to run at least several Flux controllers, I think 2 at least, on the workload clusters. And then I think Akash and Bala has concerned that for RAN use case, the edge cluster would not have as much resources to freely create a bunch of stuff. I don't know how heavy this is. I don't think they're that heavy, but anyway, for now, I mean, we can optimize as we go, but then for now, at least for a sample, we'll run the Helm. Well, I call it the Helm execution engine. In this case, it will be Flux on the workload clusters. So it will be contained within the workload clusters. And to do this, the only thing you do on Helm onboarding is translating the NF deployment custom resource and your vendor extension custom resources into the config map that is needed to generate a values.yaml for your Helm charts, which for commercial product is like 10,000 fields. For FreeFiGC is tens, not even hundreds. So it's actually great. So it's not for our sample, it's not as tough. I would imagine for vendor to onboard, there'll be other things that we have to do to expedite the process, but we have to learn as we go. And an argument could be made that you don't have to write code to do this, because all you do is just take resource field A, field B, and then generate field, X, Y, and Z on the values.yaml. So that is true, and we would like good suggestions. We have no contributors to do this. So Vim is working on something for NF2 infra that he called Kform, which is basically his version of Terraform. And that includes a tool that can do this. So right now, that's the most promising thing, I guess, because we don't have any other contributors that are working on this. So if Vim has something available, we can try to integrate. But then integrating that is also work. So far, we don't have a volunteer to do that work neither. So to do this, I tentatively set it to L3, but to do this, we have two unknowns. One, whether or not Kform would even be available with enough buffer time for us to do Kform integrations for L3, we don't know. And then B, and then two, the integration of Kform when it's becoming available has no one working on it. And Dan and I will not be working on that, to be honest. So given that what we already have, so we have no one doing this, and then it's a nice to have, to be honest, for now. So if anyone wants to volunteer, or if anyone you can go prowl volunteers if you want to, that you can you can find an okay to want to work on this piece, that would be great. But we're still waiting for the Kform stuff becoming available. And Tao thinks that it would be easy to just write it without Kform, which is also correct, I'm sure. But then again, if he's super passionate about not using Kform, it would be nice if he writes something and just put it here and integrate that with the SDK, and that would be great. My vision would be, once whatever this thing is, which takes whatever input and takes whatever so in Vim's case, it will be like a DAG. It's a direct acyclic graph file that will be generated. There will be a lot of infrastructure that needs to be happening for a DAG to be presented to the backend logic. We don't share file systems between controllers in the workload clusters. Workload clusters controllers generally do not have access to Git repo because they don't have ports running in workload cluster. So to solve the problem of just presenting a DAG would be a thing that someone has to do, which again, no one is doing it. But then anyway, so once that is done, then we somehow, the DAG file becomes available to the backend operator, or backend business logic thing, and then they will take the DAG, and that would be actually us. So this will be published by Nephew, because that would be very generic, meaning that it has the ability to map any incoming resources to any output resources, up to I heard up to and including the fact that this engine would help you apply the resulting resources. So for example, when we want to generate a config map, we want to generate the Helm released resources. I was told by Vim that his tools can also take those resulting resources and apply them directly to the cluster, to the API server. So if they can do that, that backend logic would be very simple. It just executes the DAG, and it does the mapping of the logics, and which would be done by Kform anyway, and then let Kform apply them. The question on that, which Vim didn't answer, is how do we know if it works? So in that case, I still prefer the business logic being the owner of the Helm config map and Helm released, so they can actually get the result of the status of deploying the Helm charts, and then use that as a return code to send back to the gRPC client, so they will know. So the proxy operator would know how to construct the status field on that NF deployment. So that would be work. That would happen even if Kform does everything for you. It would still be some work on our end, which again, we have no one doing. So I look forward to seeing it happening. I look forward to actually seeing it works the way we want it to work. So for us, I mean, for SDK team perspective, unless and until we see a real case where we can give them an NF deployment plus whatever the FreeFiGC extension cout,
Mhm.
and then they can spit out the config map and Helm released. We shouldn't assign people to do anything until then, or we have no one to assign anyway at this point. But then we shouldn't be wanting to do anything until we see this is actually working.
Okay.
So that's the part.
Yeah. So I just want to
That's
make
basically all it is for L3. Yeah,
yeah.
that's all we have.
So I just want to make sure I'm typing while you're speaking. That's it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm looking at both screens.
Mhm.
So it's the so for so the main goal right now will be the hearing charger for free 5G for R3, and there was one more.
For L3, so L3, so two things, right? One, creates the tools. So Nfl SDK is a real release tools for L3 that vendors can opt to use. They don't have to. Can opt to use to onboard using this SDK. So the SDK, in a way, kind of set up what the operator framework looks like for Nfl, because it would generate the operator, who does what in an operator, in an network function operators, would be sort of coded in, opinionated, expressed by the SDK. So that's one of the core pieces of SDK. So we have the tools that obviously we need to generate that tools and release that tools as part of L3, so that vendors can start trying to go on board using this. And it may or may not satisfy it, because using free 5GC is so much easier than the vendor's actual home charts. And for us to verify this works, we need to have a target to make sure that it works, and that target is free 5GC, because that's the only thing we have. So we hope that OAI would jump on board too, but probably not L3, because Saga is pretty busy. So we'll do free 5GC. We'll make sure that the agreement in the community is also that once this is working, we'll fully replace the current free 5GC operators under test that we use as a sample, that we publish as a sample for release, and then the SDK operator would be the official one from that point on, moving forward.
Okay.
Yeah. So there are feature missing actually today on the operator, the free 5GC operators. For example, OAI introduces the PLMNs and SNNAI and SNSSAI related parameters. Those are not something that we can configure today for free 5GC, so we may just conveniently do it here also as part of this exercise.
Okay, so in the chat, I'm gonna put right now what I'm gonna show tell tomorrow if in the automation call. So I'm just going to tell. So we're going to use the discussion SDK as our main discussion.
Yeah.
On Stack. And then just saying that you gave a quick introduction to me of the task, and then I wrote the main call because he was asking what it's SDK going to do.
Yeah.
That's so I will opt that into automation talk for tomorrow's meeting in a few minutes after this call. So the next question from on my end will be, it's what do you need? Like, do you need my help right now? That's the question. And where?
I mean, if I need contributors for sure. So
Yeah.
if you have time to like do stuff, that would be great. Are you going to be on? Are you going to go to the ONE summit?
No. So so next week and the week after, I have, for personal reasons, I have to travel to India.
Okay.
So I'll be attentive. So as long as I have internet, I'll be on the call. That's no problem.
Okay.
But if any issue comes, I'll send a message in the automation Slack about that. But yeah.
Yeah. So that's okay. So we would. I mean, I was told. So hopefully that is the case. I was told that Dan will be there. Obviously, Kieran already asked me to to get together during the summit that we'll talk about. We'll whiteboard this a little bit more. So we'll whiteboard this on the summit. There obviously right now the biggest piece that is missing anyone doing is the packaging. But then that has to be tackled along with the CLI. So the CLI needs to be made available first. And then I also need to know if Dan would be, so the next month and a half ish, how much can Dan do and stuff like that too. Well, if I get to see him on the summit, I'll probably have to ask him on that. And yeah, so there are things that if the CLI becomes available, I can tap that on an end-to-end perspective too. I can generate the gRPC server myself on that. But then if there are other folks, that would be great. Yeah, so we'll see. The thing is, we have to, folks that are interested to contribute, we have to get together and finalize the set of things that needs to be done. My code, I hope to have them available on the Nephio SDK-POC repo under Nephio Experimental before the ONI summit. I mean, I've been talking about it, so that right now the deadline is coming, so definitely have to get that done by the ONI summit, because I'll do a demo there at one of the conference talk, and it will be nice that after demo we can point to the code and then people can look at it. So that's the goal, and then that will be what I'll be working on before the summit, and then after the summit we should have a list of more detailed tasks under the list of tasks that we already have. I don't think we'll add more stuff, to be honest. I think what would happen is each of this will have a little more. We could, or we can have a better detail on what the scope of file 3. That CLI framework is just framework is done, but then what needs to be added onto the Opera framework, and then packaging and so on, right? And tapping along, so that's the dependencies from 03 to 500, for example, to get it going. So all that hopefully we'll get some level of clarifications by the end of the summit. We should update the issues to reflect that. I hope to get some clarifications when I see them, particularly in the summit, to see whether we can actually do this at all for R3. And then I still want, so all this talk that we had on Zoom meetings, I think hopefully Liam and Fiacra may feel the same way, is I still don't get a very good grasp of the input and what is happening if we're using Kform. There are a lot of Kform can do that talk, but then it would be nice to see the thing, for example. So this repo is an official repo. So we have a second repo which is not as official, but then the agreement that I have with the community is, I believe it even spell experimental. And I created one already, so that one. So when I push code, I'll push it into that first.
Okay.
And then the cool thing about pushing code here is it has. I'll put an owner's file. It doesn't matter, but it has no prowl backend test that will run. So you can push code with no unit tests, which I won't have anyway before the ONI summit. And then by the time you get to here, by the time it gets to here, it should have unit tests, and prob jobs should be running against. This guy doesn't have prob jobs neither, so I thought Tao prematurely pushed this from Samsung into the repo, but partly that's my fault, because I created a repo. I never actually set up the owners files and asked Rado to turn on prowl, but we should do that anyway for the official repo. And then we can run a prowl job when any PLs are being posted against the repo. We'll have to verify that it works. It doesn't break any of the previous stuff anyway. Yeah, so we'll set those up as we get near, probably after the ONE Summit. And then before the ONE Summit, I'll push stuff here with no unit tests, as I said. and then show the code to people, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
And yeah,
Yeah,
so
so
hopefully
then
for CLI, when Dan is back, he'll
Mhm.
also push his code on the PLC repo. And then we'll do some level integrations on what kind of things can be generated by the CLI, and then at runtime, at the deployment time, what do we do? That kind of things. So
Okay.
so this is yeah, that will be the integration piece once the code becomes available. So hopefully that would happen around mid-May ish or beginning of June, doesn't matter. And you have to June 30th is a very hypothetical day of release 3 that will likely not happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I know it. So then on my end, I'll just check, keep an eye on these reports, and then once you have them, I will keep also start looking at just like documenting what's happening for the all.
Yeah, so I won't be
time.
I won't be in a SIG meeting tomorrow. So yeah, go ahead and report
Yeah.
status.
Yeah, I will.
In fact,
Tomorrow I'll
you
be
can
there.
just do that
That's
from now on. I'll
yeah,
probably
I'll
not even
do
do
it.
it.
Going.
Yeah.
I'll do it. And then aside from that, I'll just make a like note because once we submit it on the leads or whatever tree, we probably will have to document everything properly.
Yeah.
So I'll slowly look at how to take it forward around that, and that helps even for me when because that's again I'm just starting off with nephew, so it also helps me as well. But I think for right now, that's
Yeah, that's okay.
yeah.
So I don't. So I am working towards the ONE Summit. I'm not sure we need a meeting next week. I don't know if folks in the call has anything they want to talk about before the summit, because we'll get together in the summit. So I'm not sure if the meeting next week is really needed. I don't expect to do a lot of. I mean, even if my stuff is working, I'm not going to run a demo on next week's meeting. I'll run it during the ONE Summit. So I don't think there's a really major need for the meeting next week.
Okay.
Until, because the real discussion should happen during the summit, and then at that point, coming back, we'll update all the issues and then talk and then start polling. Well, we should start polling people of the status anyway at this point, because we should be squarely in the execution phase. But then again, it's so simple that it's only 2 people, so it's not it's not really that big of a deal at this point. Meaning, I mean, we should have the point being that at this point of the cycle of the development cycle, I'm less interested in like discussions on concepts, which has happened quite a bit, because the SDK meeting actually started around the beginning of R2, actually, amazingly, and then for a whole half year we're still debating whether or not we can make Helm charts first class citizens, and then we finally get the turn of events to get consensus on that in the beginning of the year, and then I hope the meeting, and then you'll be running a meeting anyway. The whole meeting becomes more of a the execution side of the meeting. So status, integrations, blockers, and things like this. So
Okay.
anyway,
yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm just going to to let anyone else if they want to speak.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I probably should keep my mouth shut, but I don't have a lot of scope to look into this. But would it be an idea to potentially look at Flux centralized on the management cluster? I know I haven't done this, I haven't used this, but it is available. It probably would require additional security or kube config, etc. to the workload clusters. I'm not. I'd say it's just is it a kube config for the workload
Well,
cluster? Would it be that simple? But you know,
so that is, well, no, you don't, because so in that case, it's something nice to explore, but then, it would be nice to
Yeah.
whiteboard. There are some concerns that I have. I think I said that before. But then
yeah,
in terms of how to execute this, the only thing would be it allows you to write something into the Git repo, which you
yeah,
have access to on the management clusters.
on
So you
management
don't
cluster,
need
yeah.
to apply the resources directly onto the workload clusters, because that's happening using config anyway. And so if you're using Flux,
Let's say the Flux
oh,
Helm
I see.
controller.
Yeah. So in
The
that
Flux
case,
Helm
your
controller would
Helm,
run. Yeah, the Flux Helm controller would run on the management cluster and apply the Helm chart via
to the
remotely if you like. So I know there were concerns from Bala and others around resource usage on the workload on the edge clusters, and it makes sense. If you want a
RAN.
very light touch, for RAN or whatever, at an extreme edge. But
Do you know
again,
if the Flux controllers are really that heavy?
I don't think so. No.
Yeah,
And
that's what I'm thinking.
I don't think so. Like that. That's
Like
yeah.
it's probably just a normal operator, if anything.
Yeah, and I'm pretty I didn't dig down into it, but listening to Tal and others, it's pretty much it's using the Helm binary, under the hood essentially. So it's it's calling but it's just maybe it's something
I never tried myself, but then I was told by John that if you have a fully resolved Helm charts, you can push the Helm charts directly through a config sync. And config sync would be the one that would be applying them.
Yeah,
To the
there is
cluster.
support there. I never because there
in
was
that
no
case, you don't
support
even
for.
use the Helm Flux controller. You only
Yeah, but the
Helm.
fact I think it's missing the hooks. It's missing
Okay.
the Helm hooks. So that was the
Oh,
kind of
definitely.
main.
That's definitely true. Yes.
Yeah. But no, it's just an idea. Maybe it's
Yeah. So my concern of that is more of the workload, because that basically means that all the parameters needs to be fully resolved on the management cluster side.
management cluster before it's sent. Yeah.
So it does that today. Actually, in a way, it does that today. The IP address and everything's all fully resolved at the management cluster level. But then it kind of takes away the flexibility of having the workload clusters doing any day 2 operations.
Yeah.
Because if you are allocating IP address, and then if you have LCM, have a lifecycle management on your network functions, let's say you create a new pod within your network functions, that also requires secondary interfaces. The vision there is you should be able to do it directly on the workload clusters through the operator, hopefully. And in that case, you wouldn't be able to, because there's the IP address. Even if the IPAM allocates you a block, the block will be partially allocated by the management cluster.
But the logic is
it's very convoluted. I was looking at that earlier. So that's my concern, if anything, because John would love to see that. John would love to see that. John was when I was talking to John was like, "Hey, do everything on the left side." But then I thought that the big problem for me is one of the big benefits of using Nephio is the fact that you have vendor logics that would be taking on the bulk of the work on workload clusters, and we would like to build it that way. So all the value on top of, on top of the Helm charts is the fact that you're allowing vendors to now start doing a lot of day 2 operation stuff. So I suspect moving forward with Nephio, as Nephio matures, that part of the logic will become heavier.
I guess it's probably up to the vendor how kind of heavy they want the workload clusters to be.
Vendor.
But I guess it probably should focus on keeping them as streamlined as possible. You know what I mean, in terms of what's run on the workload cluster. I guess is kind of keep it as small as possible. Yeah. Anyway, no, just an idea. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. I mean, there's another things too, but because that basically means that the NF deployment translation happens on management clusters. So you still push an NF deployment that's actually nothing on the workload clusters, and then the business logic now gets shifted onto the management cluster. So vendor now needs to be onboarded their controllers on management cluster also. you can make an argument that maybe you build it using cat functions, and or K-form type stuff. But then there's still a vendor extension logic that you have to kind of manage. So now you as we onboard more vendors, hopefully, then suddenly everything gets jammed onto management clusters, and all of those are just day one operations. But there's still a lot of controllers that we potentially have to manage. So that some of the concerns.
Yeah, no, keep run it on the worker cluster. Ignore what it says.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else from anyone? If not, well, we get 3 minutes back. For folks that are going to ONE Summit, I'll see you at ONE Summit.
Okay. And
Yeah.
Steven, I'll send a message on Monday that we won't have the call then.
Yeah. So next week we can cancel it.
Yeah. I'll put a message out on Monday.
Yeah. Cool. I can cancel it on the calendar.
Okay.
And the Zoom.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. A Zoom calendar too. There's two calendars. There's a calendar. There's a list calendar on nephew.org, and there's a Zoom calendar. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So okay.
I have my own calendar, so I don't even look at those.
Okay. So have fun. See you guys and see a lot of you guys. I think Liam and Fiacra are going, right? At least.
Yeah, I'm over there. Yep.
So see you guys in the ONE Summit.
Hopefully, all going well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Have fun. Well, have a safe travel too, because for me it's
Thanks
local.
very much.
For me it's local, but safe
Around the
travel.
corner. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Cool. Thanks,
Okay,
guys.
bye.
Talk to you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Yeah.